I'm here with my dear friend, Mark Canfora, and we've been friends for about since 2015 through the loss of our sons, Mark Jr. and Zach. And Mark wrote the book Alive in Heaven. And we're going to start with a little song before we start off our podcast. Bear with me.
There we go.
I don't make no faith, I struggle against the wind. But I know we must.
Hi, Mark.
How you doing, Melissa?
Good. Again, you've been my dear friend since 2015.
Yes.
And I probably couldn't tell you exactly the post that I stumbled on, but it was something that touched my heart so much that I reached out to you.
I recall that I relooked at our Facebook friendship since 2015, nearly 10 years now.
10 years
about
now.
9 years. And yes, we crossed each other's paths in similar circumstances.
Yes.
But there's been a lot of good that's come of that since we met, even.
Oh, absolutely. You originally, when I first met you, you had sent me, I think it was about 15 copies of your book.
Yes.
And I don't even know if you realize how much those books have helped the people that I mailed them out.
Yeah.
And I held on to them because you know what? Again, you can't just hand them out to everybody, right?
Yes.
It's got to be that time and you see a post or it's a friend that you
That's
know
right.
is in need.
Agreed. Well, we've been since 2009 when I self-published the book and really started distributing it in 2010. There's over 100,000 free copies in circulation that we have given away, which we pay shipping as well. And we send them by the cases, even as much as 50 books at a time for free.
Yes.
To bereavement groups. But yeah, it's just something that we felt led to do as a family,
Yes.
to give back in our grief. And it's really worked out well for us in the healing process by loving others, encouraging others. And on July 12th, as you know, it'll be 18 years for me since Mark Jr. went home to be with the Lord. And about 4 years in, I wrote the book about 4 years after Marky passed in 2005. And I really felt led to share. And my heart really was just to help others like you and the countless millions of others like us.
Yeah, exactly. So I just want to show the book too, Mark. It's a
See that
beautiful.
silhouette of Marky's face on the clouds?
Yeah, no,
in the front?
I'm telling you, it's a book of healing,
Yes.
hope, and everything. Because anytime I've ever mailed this book out, I've always received a message back how much it helped them. And again, it's one of these books that I hold on to sometimes, even for a little bit before I mail them out, because I think maybe the time is right when it's right.
Yes. I tell a lot of people that have read the book or are reading the book, sometimes they got to put it down right at the beginning, because I open up with the night that my son passed away, with the middle of the night phone call from my 16-year-old daughter that, you know, my 18-year-old son, Marky, had passed away. Right. And that's every parent's most dreaded nightmare, is that their child passes. And sometimes we have forewarning, and then other times it's with the phone call, right?
Yes.
And it literally dropped me to my knees and to the floor at 2:30 in the morning. And I opened the book with that. Yeah. And then I kind of reflect back on my life prior to, and then all the good that's happened thereafter. Which there is hope after tragedy by the choices we make, right?
So true.
We can choose love and hope and encouragement. It's hard to do at the beginning.
It's so
but
hard.
Looking back 18 years, I'm so glad that we as a family chose to celebrate Mark's life and
Yeah.
offer the hope and healing that we went through.
Because if you look, like the way I look at it with you is that you are so inspiring to me, because Mark's life, like a lot of times I get told with Zach, is one life, right? And you are out there spreading healing, love, and God to people to give them hope.
Yes.
And I look back at myself too, and I will be honest, I was really mad at God
Yes.
when I like you, I got that phone call.
Yes.
So you're put in shock. Your brain can't process that.
No.
I explain it like the worst torture a human can go through is the loss of a child. We're
And
not supposed to hear it.
I agree 100%.
So, but you, like me, looked at it like, you know what? We could check out, right? We could check
Yeah.
out.
It's
I
an
thought
option.
about that.
It's not a good option, but it is an option.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I thought, no, you know what? I have a bigger purpose here on life.
Yes. Yes. And I agree with that. How we came across one another was in like 2015. Did Zach pass away in 2000? Was it 11?
2012. Yeah.
12. Okay.
Yeah.
So I knew it was you'd been active in your outreach to people, but the
Yeah.
early months and years, we're not like I wasn't writing a book, right? In
Yeah.
my first months
That's
or
right.
year, I was asking God questions like you,
Absolutely.
and I documented mine though. My mother-in-law at the time said, Mark, journal all these things that are going on. So I thank God I journaled about
Oh,
100 pages the first few weeks and months. When I went to write the book, I went back to the journal. It was
journal.
in my safe. I saved it, and then it helped me. But one of the things that changed my grief recovery was when I cried out to God and said, I can't do this.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. And not going on is a horrible option that some parents choose because
Yeah.
they're so distraught and
Yeah.
they do feel abandoned by God. And you have questions of God in those early stages, but we really have to give it enough time
Yes.
to wait and cry out to God, yell,
Yeah.
cry, and
So right.
and He loves us through it all.
Yeah.
And then in time we get a little bit of understanding, right?
Yes.
And but what I cried out early on, Melissa, was that I would never forget the early hours, weeks, and months of that horrifying experience.
Yes.
And I journaled it. And the reason why I didn't want to forget it, because I knew He was calling me as someone that would go out to the brokenhearted,
Yes.
because it was the most horrific nightmare ever imaginable. And at the same time, I became a bereaved parent
Yeah.
with a phone call, and we know we had dreams of a future with our child and weddings, and all these things are ended with the phone call.
Absolutely.
And so I made a vow that if God helped me through and gave me His strength, which He did, that I would help others the rest of my life.
Absolutely.
And I've been doing that now for 18 years. Only by His strength, though.
Yeah.
Right? On any
No,
given
it's
day,
so
we have
true.
those days where we cry. It's
Yeah.
almost like it happened yesterday, but we get through that, and a good cry is therapeutic.
You know what? It's funny you say that, because about a week and a half ago, out of nowhere,
Yes.
had the biggest cry downstairs when I was doing laundry, and something sparked in my head about Zach, and I needed that
Yes.
cry because I've held it in for so long. And
Yes.
man, did it ever feel good to get it out?
You needed it.
Yeah.
And your body knows it, and your spirit with God, because when that's done, isn't it feel so much better?
Oh, it's like like they say, when bricks are lifted off your shoulder, right? You
Yeah.
can't keep that in, like I was just saying to you earlier, that I sent your book to Officer Tommy Norman. And I know a lot of people that may be watching this know who he is, an officer in Little Rock, Arkansas. And he needed this book. I know when he gets this next week, he's gonna cry, because what I saw a video one time is that he said is that he can't cry. And
Yeah.
I know what that feels like, because you become like a shell of a person, but you're so strong,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And no, those tears are not going to come through, but the tears have to come through. We
Amen.
as parents, we have to let that process of grieving. If we kind of shut it down, it's only going to creep up later on.
That's right. And like we talked about prior to the talk and recording, that
Yes.
there's no set pattern to grief.
No.
Like early on, I thought, well, I got this kind of figured out, and then about the time I thought I had it figured out, I'm going to cry, I'm going to listen to music, I'm going to praise God, and then bam, he drops me to my face on the ground again, because my heart was still horrendously broken.
Broken.
So, and
Broken.
everybody grieves differently. So one thing that's important about your friend, you say Tommy,
Yeah.
and you and me, is men without question grieve differently than women. Dads grieve differently than moms.
Yes.
Okay. It's a proven fact.
So true.
We as men are raised in society that, tough
Cut
men
down your
don't
emotion,
cry.
right?
We
Yeah.
don't cry. If you
Don't
cry,
cry.
you're weak.
Yeah.
I think God has a real sense of humor, because I talk
Yeah.
about my grief.
Yeah.
I'm one of the rarities that God has blessed me with the ability to share in love
Yes.
and compassion. And I share from the dad's perspective,
Yeah.
I will say that 90% of the 6,000 followers I have on my Facebook under Mark Canfora, the majority of them are women that are grandmothers that are suffering child
Suffering.
loss or multiple child loss.
Child loss.
Yeah. So compassion, but I think we gotta show each other grace, right?
Absolutely. And I
Like
think too,
men grieve
yeah,
differently. Wives,
we,
have grace with your husband. Husbands,
yeah,
understand that your wife needs to talk about it.
yeah, we may be more vocal and showing more of our grief out loud,
Yes,
where you guys are suffering in silence.
exactly.
And
There's some pretty cool websites for men on Facebook called Grieving Fathers.
yes,
There are some really good ones, but predominantly it is the moms groups. And but I do want to say one thing about you and your ministry and Zach. When I read what you're doing in Zach's memory and his honor and your love of others, you have inspired me. I can't even tell you.
so you're gonna make me cry, because if
Me
I
too.
inspired you.
For 9 years now, I've watched you grow. And 4 years when you started, 3 years when we met, when you started the bracelet program and the awareness program, look how far you've come,
Thank you.
and I feel honored and proud in the Lord that I was able to be a broken vessel that spoke life to you, because that's what we're to do. We're to speak life and love
In love.
and hope and encouragement, right? We have a choice to speak death, woe me. Okay, that's okay in the early months.
The world's a shitty place, but we gotta find the best in every day, right?
Exactly. There's a saying biblically in Isaiah 61 where Jesus said, I came to set the captives free. Okay, and one of the things he showed me, that was a scripture he gave me, and it's in my book. But what it says in there is people get captivity in grief.
Yes.
There's
Absolutely.
captivity in a lot of sin, but captivity in grief. So what I find out from people that are like grieving for 20 years, and they're still mad at God.
Yeah.
They're still drinking, getting drunk, or taking Xanax and cursing, they're captive. Yeah. And I would try to lovingly say to them, listen, it's not healthy.
No.
And it doesn't honor your child's memory to commit suicide.
No.
For prolonged grief. Okay, now 20 weeks, hey, God's a big God. He can take it. But 20 years, there's a healing that can take place if they just trust God, allow him to heal their broken heart, and give it some time. That's what I share. Yeah. And that is important, because we don't want to be captive.
I think,
and I do say this, you are honoring Zach's life on earth and his life in heaven by living and loving And I
Yes.
never met Zach, but I'm pretty sure he'd be real proud of you for doing that. And same thing with Marky, my boy,
Absolutely.
18, beautiful. He'd be saying, "Go, Dad."
Yeah, go, Dad.
I went through some stuff. God took me home, but I'm going to live life to the fullest and love others. And
Because
for
he's
me,
looking down and he's not seeing you like perished every day, crying
right,
in a
right.
corner, not living life to the fullest, right?
And when I get like that, like your week last week and mine, I just try to cry through it, put on a good song, and lift my eyes to heaven because I know that's where he is.
Yeah.
See, when I'm looking down at myself, I'm going through this and oh, life sucks, then I'm looking the wrong way.
Absolutely.
So I've trained myself in 18 years to look up, to put a song, to do battle because the spiritual battle is for your mind.
You see my dance parties in the kitchen. I
Yeah.
put on a good song.
I love it.
My favorite song every day, I pick up my cat and he loves Ain't No Sunshine. And it's an old song.
Oh,
And I pick him up and he dances with me in the kitchen. It's something that, again, music is therapy. Anything that can get you out of that slump. You don't want to just be
yeah.
down every day, right?
I sing the rendition of Ain't No Sunshine all the years
I
with my
love
children.
it.
I walked through
really?
the house singing that, and
Oh,
they would just laugh. I'm talking about from their young age to older,
Mark,
but
it's my
that's
favorite
my
song.
go-to song.
It's my
I love that
favorite
song.
song. Favorite song. My husband thinks I'm like crazy.
That's ironic. Yeah,
Yeah, he's like, that's really old. Why do you like that song? I love it.
a beautiful song.
Get you into the groove and you want to start
Yeah,
dancing, you want to start singing. Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. So any message you can give to any new or even not new grieving parent that is, like you said, stuck in that slump where
Yeah,
they're mad at God,
yeah,
they don't want to see the beauty in everything and just kind of shut down kind of. It's basically like you're shutting down.
yes. One thing I try to remind people of, including people like us, going through various years. You got over 10 years now,
Yes.
11, and I've got 18. I try to remind them that if you give it time,
Yeah.
and trust God and trust His healing ways, that there's a future for us.
Yes.
That there would be a reunion one day in heaven with our children.
Yes.
And that when we start looking down and what we're going through, yes, our heart breaks, but to know that in time,
Yeah.
okay, see, I wasn't doing an interview and nor were you 12, 13, 11 years ago.
Yeah. No.
When I wasn't writing books
No.
and going around the country, like we do festivals and we do gatherings where we give the books away and I share with people, but it takes time, right?
Time.
Like anything. There'll come a day where you laugh again, you'll smile again, and you'll have hope.
And it's okay to laugh, right? It's okay to tell parents that, like,
right.
I'm not feeling that in the beginning after Zach that I remember the first time I laughed. It came out, and all of a sudden I wanted to shut it back down.
Yeah.
Do you remember that feeling too, where it was like, we can't experience happiness again?
Right.
Right? But you can.
Yes, you can.
Yeah.
And like I said before, it is a battle for the mind and the emotions. If we stay there too long,
Yeah.
I have a chapter in my book called The Blame Game.
Yes.
Right. So the Bible says Satan is the accuser of the brethren. He blames day and night and accuses. So when he attacks our mind, if we stay there too long, we're going to go from love and hope to despair and anger and unforgiveness.
Yes.
And those aren't healthy.
No.
Okay. So we learn, okay, oh, I messed up that time. I stayed there too long. I got angry, but I'm not doing that again. But we'll fall, we'll stumble, but we learn how to address those bad thoughts.
Yes.
And I just really like, giving praise. For example, I write about, Satan and a third of the angels were thrown from heaven and okay, they're evil. Okay, let's put it that way. But he was the head of all praise in heaven. Well, he sure hates it when we praise.
Oh, of course.
One of the things that the enemy hates is praising God, lifting hands. It's a transformation of our spirit when we do that. And the enemy hates it. So I like doing just the opposite of what the enemy wants me to do. Right?
Yeah.
He wanted me to kill myself. And I thought about it in the early stages, which I write about, but I'm turned and made a vow to God that I said this, laying in the fetal position, down by my grieving spot by our pool. I said, Lord, you know the day I'm going home to heaven. Not me, not the enemy, but you. I'm going to trust you to take me home at your time. So I made a vow against the suicide demon that I wouldn't do it.
It's smart that it's exactly what you said, because there was a moment after Zach, it wasn't too long after, it was about a week and a half. Nobody was home, by myself, and I wanted that. I prayed for that, and I took a bunch of stuff and I asked Zach. I said, if you can give me a sign, I need a sign from you, because if not, I'm checking out, hun, and I'm coming to join you.
Yes.
And I lay down and fell asleep, and that was the first dream I had of him.
Oh,
And he looked so happy.
yes.
It messed my mind up, because I thought, we're hurting, but why are they happy?
Yes.
Because they're with the ones they love now, right?
God spoke to you. He speaks through dream. We talk dreams, visions,
Stop me,
nature.
or I would not be here talking to you right now.
Right.
Like
you asked for it and God responded. And sometimes it isn't right away, but it will come if we're patient.
Yeah.
But
for the signs, and we got to acknowledge them. And we got to, like, when we ask for a sign sometimes too, I think we got to be ready to see it, right? We can't say, give me a sign, and it goes poof. It doesn't work that way.
Melissa, my experience since 18 has been this with the bereaved too. I find 3 different areas, right? When people have faith, right? And that was me. I had strong faith for 7 years. I was 39 when I gave my life to Christ. But at 47 is when I got the call about Marky. But for 7 years, I read the word and had a relationship. I was raised in a man-made religion that I got out of at 12. And the mistake I made was lumping Jesus into that, right? But I came to Christ for 7 years. So I'm doing street missions. I'm giving back to the poor. I mean, everything is like, man, God, this is great. I love Christianity. It's mountaintop.
Yeah.
And then the phone call.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's a test of a faith. Did God allow that? Well, yeah, he could have stopped it.
Yeah.
But let me say this, by you fighting through and me fighting through, look at all the beauty and good you have done in 11 years and the love of others and Zach. Guess what the enemy wanted? You dead.
Oh, for sure.
He didn't want you to go do God's will, which is to love others like us that are brokenhearted. Same thing with me. I didn't, I had the faith of a mustard seed, and it's in the first chapter. Not only did I get the phone call, I drove to the morgue.
Yes, that's a hard part. Yeah.
I met the ambulance there at 3:00 in the morning, and I wheeled my son from the ambulance into the morgue with the EMS workers, and they left me alone with them. They were gracious enough to let me spend time with Marky.
Yeah.
They actually said, you sure you want to do this? Because of course that's out of the norm.
Yeah,
absolutely. I said, hey, I have to see my son.
You wanted
to. I unzipped him out of the body bag. I did the unzipping.
You did it.
And there was my son that looked like he was sleeping. But my point is this. I had the faith of a mustard seed asking Jesus to breathe life into him, to bring him back. Because in the Bible, Lazarus, centurion servant, Jairus, all these resurrections Jesus did. And I believe he brings people back. There's a lot of stories. But the point is, he didn't do it, right? I was asking him. So I had that kind of faith.
Yeah.
And then he did answer in a different way, not breathing life into Marky, but he gave me signs and visions, and which I talk about right in the morgue. Yeah. And then I left there celebrating Mark's life. Yeah. I literally got set free from the captivity in the same night by crying out to God. Because that night he did show me them 18 years early, Marky had almost died on the birthing table.
Yeah.
Right down the road from the morgue, Mark was born with the cord around his neck, and he was blue-black. And I was crying to God then to let him live. Right. What I go on to say is I played poker that day for 18 hours. I was drunk as could be when I went to bed and my wife's water broke. And
Yeah.
okay, so we rushed to the hospital. Marky's nearly dying. It's my firstborn child. And I'm begging God to let him live, right? Begged him.
Yeah.
And you know what? God was so loving and kind, as drunken fool at 28 years old. He gave me 6,870 days with Marky.
Yeah.
You know the measure of that love? What would we give for one more day with Zach or
no,
Marky?
I couldn't put it into words.
10 billion in the bank, if you want to equate it to today's money. If I had 10 billion in the bank, I'd give it.
Oh, for sure.
To hang out with him. How about an hour hanging out at a park?
Absolutely.
So God gave us these days through love.
Yes.
And it was too short, but here's the bottom line. Eternity is forever.
Absolutely.
And we will spend eternity with our sons.
Yeah. And I think too, a lot of people that struggle, I know, again, I'm sure you too talk to a lot of grieving parents that they feel that when their time comes that they're not going to be reunited with their children. And I can't promise them. I can only tell them that I know they're going to. Like, I'm here today because I know that when my time comes, I'm going to, okay, so we're almost out. So I'm going to make sure that we get all it in. But yeah, when my time comes, I know that I'm going to be reunited with all my loved ones.
Yeah.
That's why
I just advise them to seek the Lord and ask him to reveal himself and show them eternity as he speaks about in the Bible.
Absolutely. So before this cuts off, because I don't want I'm going to put all your links in the bottom where people can go see you when you do the Celebration of Life festival at the park where your son passed away. I also want to let everybody know that anybody that is grieving, that is watching this, please reach out to Mark, which I'll put his contact in the bottom, or myself, and we can mail you out this free of charge.
Yes.
It is so important for people to read it. This really helped me when I lost Zach. It's helped and continuing to help.
If they have a grief recovery group, if they got 30 members, we'll send 50 books.
Exactly.
To give them away.
Yeah.
And the Celebration of Life and Message of Hope that we do, we did like 12 of them in the town where Marky passed.
Yeah.
And thousands have come to the Lord in salvation. And I'm about to travel the country and do 24 more festivals and meet people like you. I've known people on Facebook since 2007 that have had children pass.
I'm going
to the Carolinas in October. We're having a festival for free. And there's going to be over 100 bereaved families that have children in heaven. We're meeting. I'm going to meet some of my Facebook friends that I've known for 16 years.
That's pretty amazing.
We're going to announce it on our Facebook. Hey, I'd love to come to Canada.
Oh, I want you to. I think you would do so well. Like, there are a lot of parents here that could really use you, even a talk from you, sitting down with you, anything with you. So we can.
There's a lot of interviews on YouTube. I've been K-Love Radio, Moody. There's a lot of interviews in our archives on YouTube and our website, which you're going to post it.
I'm going to post. I'll post everything in the YouTube.
There's a lot of history there.
Oh yeah.
I really appreciate you and what you're doing. I continue to pray for you.
Thank you.
If we do have a celebration of life in your area, I tell people it's like a family reunion.
Yes.
Bring covered dishes, some Bluetooth speakers, some games and fun, and we fellowship for 4 or 5 hours. That's all it is.
Yeah.
We rented a park in South Carolina for $150.
Oh,
and
wow.
donations are coming in of water, and so it's like a reunion.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it doesn't have to, and we never charge a dime for. We've given away 10,000 T-shirts.
Like I said, I've always
10,000 of these posters.
You send me boxes of books all the time to mail out, and you never ask for any money unless we ask, like, if we want to do a donation. We don't have to. But so again, this is why it's so very important.
They ask how do you do that, Mark? I said, well, 2 fish and 5 loaves. Read that part where Jesus fed 5,000 men, women, and children. So God will provide is all.
Absolutely.
I just trust him.
Yeah.
But I
And
also
plus-
remember early on you sent me the bracelets. I
Yeah.
did give those away. My
Yeah.
grandchildren have gotten lessons and
Oh.
swimming lessons. No, that was early on. I got